Yo, what's up, my dudes? Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back. We're back at it again with another video. And in this video, we're gonna get this D16 block measured up. We're gonna get the rings gap. We're gonna get the bearings checked for clearance. We're gonna get piston wall clearance checked, and we're gonna get this thing assembled. Now, I'm not gonna go in thorough detail showing you guys everything that I'm doing. We gotta kind of get this thing together kind of quickly, but I am gonna tell you all the specs that I'm gonna be using. Check the bearing clearances, check the bore cylinder clearances, and everything like that. So we are not sending the block out to the machine shop. We are just gonna clean it ourselves. I picked up some brake clean. That's all we really need. We're gonna clean the block down, clean the cylinders, clean the crank, clean the main, all that stuff. I forgot that Carlos actually got valve stem seals, so we're gonna tear down the head, put these new valve stem seals in. We're gonna run the stock camshaft for now, and in like a month or two, when the time is right, we're gonna get the Speed Factory cam. We'll pull the head again, which is okay. We'll put the cam in, we'll put new valve springs in, dual valve springs, steel retainers, and we'll get the head sorted out for a nice big cam. But we're gonna put it together with the stock cam for now, make some power, and then see how the difference in what the cam does to performance. So I'm gonna get this thing cleaned up. I'm gonna start getting everything measured. I'm gonna get my measuring tools out, my engine building equipment, and start getting this thing measured and get it zipped up, get it all back together. We are going with a YCP Vitara piston, and I said we got Speed Factory rods, but we actually got Skunk 2 long rods for the D16. So we're gonna get that together, get the piston rings gapping, oil pump in, all that stuff. We're gonna get it all going real nice. So let's jump into that now, because I'm tired of talking, and let's get this thing put together. Alright, I guess real quick, before we go any further, I should tell you what's all going into the motor. So first off, we have the YCP Vitara pistons, Hastings rings, we got ACL bearings, we have an ACL oil pump, the Skunk 2 Alpha long rods. We have a Skunk 2 70mm throttle body. We have a Skunk 2 Pro intake manifold. We also have a Skunk 2 half rad, Speed Factory intake manifold spacer. These are Snake Eater Performance 1000cc injectors with the top hat adapters. That's we should be able to make 400 on ethanol. For now, stock cam. We have blocks, stage 1 valve springs, Ferrea 5000 flat face valves that bump the compression a little bit, so we should be in the 8.5 to 1 realm. And he really wanted the pump gas, so we're going to do a pump gas tune. Probably going to integrate a flex fuel sensor, and then we'll be able to do a flex fuel tune as well and see what kind of power we can make when the camshaft is in as well. So half rad intake manifold, we got an OE timing belt, which would be okay for now. I still also have that Gates blue belt that came off of it that's in good shape. You don't really recommend it using it over and over again like that, but we have that opportunity too as well. It's in good shape. So also got SuperTech valve stem seals, and we're ready to go. Got my brand new dial bore gauge set up. I got my micrometers set up. Well, here got my piston ring grinder. It's a diamond grinder, so I can gap the rings properly, so they're all at the right gap, and we don't have any issues with them binding or anything like that. So everything's ready. I'm gonna grab some paper and a pen. I'm gonna take some notes. I'm gonna mic up the crank, see what we have. The good thing about my micrometer set is it comes with gauges, not gauges, but it comes with a piece to set your micrometer so that your micrometer is accurate. I'll show you that real quick. So as you can see, 75mm. This 25 mil is for this one. This one's 0 to 25, so at max that should fit, and then 50 mil at the smallest should fit that, and then yeah, basically. So everything's good here. We're gonna get these set up, get them checked real quick before we take any measurements to make sure it's accurate, and we should be good there. So I'm gonna get this thing cleaned real quick, get the block sprayed off. We're just brake cleaning it, so you know it is what it is, and we're gonna start miking this thing and get it together. Alrighty, I got the block measured up. Well, I got the piston to wall clearance checked. And quick and dirty way, this is how I did it. So, what I did was, I checked the piston skirt, and to my surprise, all of these piston skirts were exactly the same. So, that's good. That means that I can take one measurement of the cylinder and they'll be the same. So, this is what I did. Take my micrometer, set it to the width of the skirt, because this is where we measure our piston to wall clearance from. Measured the piston skirt, and then I took my micrometer and I went in and I set it to 0. And that piston skirt was then zeroed out on my micrometer. It's gonna be hard to do, but so if you can see that there, it's zeroed out. So I checked that, and then I went into the bore of each cylinder and I checked where the skirt would sit. Get my thing in there. The skirt's gonna sit right about there, and then I find where it doesn't move, and that is my clearance. Now for this one, this is cylinder 1 at the top. From that point to 0, we got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 thousandths of an inch piston to wall clearance, and that's what I got. So the top, I labeled the pistons A, B, C, and D, because I wasn't sure which one will go in each bore, but any of them can go in any bore because all of them are the same size and all of the clearance is exactly the same. So the clearance for piston to wall on the top of cylinder 1 for A was 35 thousandths and the bottom was 30 thousandths. So it has a slight taper downward. For that piston A and cylinder 2, at the top the clearance was 45 thousandths and the bottom was 35 thousandths. So again, a slight taper. And for 3 at the top, it was 55 thousandths and 35 thousandths at the bottom. And then for 4, it was 35 thousandths and 35 thousandths at the bottom. So I'm assuming just because this two center cylinders get warmer, they wear more. So we will have more clearance on the center 2 cylinders, but basically our minimum clearance is 30 thousandths of an inch. And that should be good enough for street driving to make 300 to 400 wheel, not beating on it consistently like a drag engine, because that would put in more heat and then it could cause a breakage. So they say a 10 thousandths of an inch per 100 horsepower. So 30 thousandths of an inch would be 300 horsepower, and we're looking to make between 300 and 400. And being as it is a street car, that tiny, little bit tighter of a piston to wall clearance will aid in the noise, so it won't be as noisy, except for the 2 center cylinders at top dead center. And when we put them in, we'll look at that and we'll rock it back and forth and see what we're looking at. But all the pistons actually measured out from skirt to be the same exact size, which is perfect because that eliminates a lot of work of having to check each one. But I did, and all of the gaps came out to be the same thing. So piston to wall clearance at the top of the cylinder for 1 is 35, top for 2 is 45 thousandths, top for 3 is 55 thousandths, and the top for 4 is 35 thousandths. So the top clearance is good. It's in range, and the bottom clearance is good enough for us. So our piston to wall clearance is calculated. We found it. It's going to do great. We're going to be able to make decent power, and especially when we go on to E, you can have a little bit tighter clearance because the piston will cool more from the 85. Not saying that you should run them tight, but we have that leeway. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise with 55 thousandths. I've seen people run these Vitara pistons at 80 thousandths plus, so that's a little excessive. That sounds like it's going to be noisy to me, but I'd rather have it a little bit looser than a little bit tighter from heat expansion standpoint, so that we don't lock the engine or lock a piston in the engine. So our piston to wall clearance is calculated, and we're going to move on to checking the ring gap, and then we got the pistons out of the way, and then we can flip it over and check the bearing clearances. It's moving right along. Also, when we do hone it, it's going to put a slightly more piston to wall clearance, but nothing crazy. It's not going to go a couple thousandths, 10 thousandths over. So it's going to be pretty accurate where it's at right now, but it's going to put a nice crosshatch so that our rings can see. Alright, so after checking all of the rings in each of the bores, they are all coming out to be the same as the top ring, which is 20 thousandths. The top ring came out to be 20 thousandths, the second ring is 20 thousandths as well. So they will all need gapped, the second ring anyways. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna leave the top ring at 20 thousandths, because they came out that way. I can't go any smaller, and I don't really wanna go any bigger. Top rings are 20 thousandths. The second ring I'm gonna open up to 24 thousandths. And we're gonna see how that goes. For an OEM engine, sometimes they will have a smaller gap on the second. They'll have a smaller gap on the second ring. But in this case, when we're running high pressure, if we were to have a smaller gap on the second ring, gases that do get past the first ring can be trapped between the first and second because the gap is smaller on the second and can push up against the ring from the bottom. It's pretty windy. Can push up on the ring from the bottom and cause fatigue and stress, and it can break the piston ring and the ring land and just cause scoring on the cylinder wall. So I'm gonna open the piston rings up to 24 thou or 0.024, and then we should be good. So alright, my dudes, so I got all of the piston rings gapped up. Top ring is at 20 thousandths, and the second ring is at 24 thousandths, or 0.024. So we should be good on gap there. Hopefully, well, we'll see. It's my first boosted engine being built, but the research I did should hold up. So we got those done. We're gonna have to flip this thing over and get the bearings measured. It's actually getting kind of late and I'm kind of cold, so I'm gonna shut the heater off and come back tomorrow. I'm gonna get this thing flipped over and get these bearings busted out. Alright, we're back. It's cold! I hate the cold! It's cold as shit in here. I got the heat on. We gotta get these bearings measured up. So I'm gonna get this crank mic'd out, write down our measurements on here, and then I'm gonna set the dial bore gauge to the micrometer setting, and then put bearings inside the main and check the main bearing clearance. That's how I'll know what our clearance is. So I'm gonna get that set up real quick and get some measurements and get back to it. Putting these main studs in, there are two different lengths. You can see the threads on these. The longer thread ones, they go in the center. As you can see, that's kind of tall, and then whenever you put in the center one, it's shorter. So the longer threaded stud goes in there. And also when you put the studs in, you want to just, especially when you're torquing it, you don't want it to bind or give false torque from not having any lubrication. So just put a light, tiny bit of oil on the threads and thread them on down in. So as you saw there, what I did was I mic'd the crank, the first main, which is this one here, closest to the timing, which would be on the oil pump. I checked the inner and the outer, which would be closer to the crank pulley and then closer to the first counterweight. They both mic'd out the same. And then I checked on each one of the bearing surfaces, top and bottom, on the inside and on the inside and the outside, and they both checked out to be the same thing. So we have 0.0025 oil clearance on that first main bearing bore. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get through these real quick. I'm gonna check them all, run through them, and we'll get back. I am only checking it on the main thrust surfaces, which would be the top and the bottom, which would be at BDC and TDC. But I am checking the concentricness of the circle and make sure it's round, and it is checking out to be the same. So I'm gonna go down and run through the mains real quick, and then we can see what our main clearance is for the rest of the main bearings. All right, so after double, triple, quadruple checking the measurements, this is what I've come up with. So these were my first measurements here, but what we got so far is that we got 15 thou, 15 thou, 25 thou, 15 thou, 15 thou, from 1 to 5. Obviously the middle one has a little bit more clearance, because the one has more stress on it, I guess. I gotta see if that's okay for our power goal. We might need a few more thou, so I may get the crank micro polish. That way it'll clean it up and it'll make it look nice, and it'll give us that little bit more of insurance that we need. So I'm gonna do some research tonight. Tomorrow we're getting to insulate greenhouse plastic on the roof to keep the heat down, and then we'll be getting insulation in January. But it's cold as fuck right now. I'm going home. I'll be back in the next clip to get the rods measured. All right, we're back. Got Carlos here. As you can see, the CL's in the background. He actually hit a sign in his Volkswagen because he dodged a deer, and it might be totaled. So we're actually getting the CL ready for him. I'm gonna sell it to him so he can hold it down, so he has a car, and then we'll have this EF done. So we still have to measure the rod bearings. Get back to this. We have to measure the rod bearings, measure the crank, and then once that's done and we have those measurements and those are clear and they're good, we can start putting the bottom end together. So we're gonna go ahead and get these things knocked out and get this motor together. .47 foot-pounds. Alright, we got it torqued in. We're gonna take measurement of the crank, the rod journal, and then we can compare that to what this is and see the difference in bearing clearance. Alright, so my tool doesn't go down to a small enough range to check the clearance, so I have to order a tool this week. So when it gets here, we'll catch up with another clip and get this thing put together. It sucks, but it is what it is. See y'all later. Alright guys, we back. I got my tool delivered today, the one that I need to measure smaller clearances, because the one I had didn't. So we're going to get these run through real quick. I have them labeled A, B, C, and D because I'm going to check the size of journal 1, 2, A, B, C, and D. Get all the measurements. That way, if something is too tight, I can try and flip-flop, mismatch rod with journal to try and find the best clearance for the rod bearings. So I'm gonna run through this real quick. I'll show you one of them, and then I'm just gonna run through them, get them all ironed out, and then we can get to putting this thing together. So at least the bottom end. Still gonna pull the head apart, which we'll be doing in this video as well. So I'm gonna knock these out real quick, check the clearances, and we can catch back up and see what we're looking at. Alright, this is so fucking annoying. These micrometers, I felt like they may have been inaccurate, so I went and bought another set. I bought this set from Harbor Freight. Yeah, that's a fucking bad idea. Whatever. I take the measurement, and both of these, set to the same journal, are giving me different measurements. And one's saying negative clearance, like there's no clearance. It's the rod is too small. And the other one is saying I have enough clearance. So I don't know what the fuck. Who would allow these people to make precision measuring tools that are not fucking accurate? Like how the foot on this one, on here, it looks curved to the edge. So I'm like, what the fuck? And then that one, I just don't know. This shit is so fucking annoying. I just want to measure this shit correctly and be on with it. But, so I don't know what the fuck to do. I'll see y'all in the next clip when I figure it out. Alright. I broke down and I bought some real tools. This is an original set of Mituyo with the cursive writing micrometers. Original. I met a guy on eBay and he sold these to me for a really good price, and I got them dialed in. They're all set and they're flat and they're true, and that's what I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these. I'm gonna redo the measurement for the piston to wall clearance. I'm gonna check the bearing clearance, and yeah, I'm not gonna record it because I want to get this thing done. It's been shit two weeks waiting for this to find this tool and for it to get here. So I'm just gonna measure everything, get it knocked out, and then I will let you guys know what's going on when we catch back up. All right. So these micrometers are great. They're flat and they're true. So I'm gonna trust what they're saying to me. And currently in a state that we're in, our main bearing clearance, we have 15 thou, 15 thou, 2 thou, 1 thou, 1 thou. And then for our rod journal clearance for the rod bearings, we have no clearance on the first and second journal for any of the rod bearings. And then for the third and the fourth journal, rod bearing journal, there's negative 0.0005 500 thousandths of an inch. So we need to get undersized bearings for the rods, and we'll need undersized bearings for the mains too, and I'll just swap out so that we can get between 1.5 and 2 thou all on the main, and then I'd be happy. And then for the rods, same thing, from 0.0015 to 0.002 for the rod journals as well. And then yeah, we'll be able to put this thing together, or we could take the crankshaft to go get polished, and maybe that might help free up some clearance, but we're gonna need a decent bit of clearance added. So yeah, I'm gonna talk to Carlos real quick, see what he wants to do, and then we can go from there, and I'll let you guys know. Alright, so I went back and rechecked the piston and wall clearance because the mics are now flat and true, so I wanted to check them again just to get a better reading. And all the pistons are the same size. So at the top of the cylinder, not at the top, but at the top where the skirt will be, cylinder 1 has 40 thousandths clearance. The bottom has 35 thousandths. Cylinder 2, the top has 50 thousandths, and the bottom has 40 thousandths. Cylinder 3 has 60 thousandths, so it's gonna make some noise. We're aware of that until it like warms up. So we're prepared for that. But bottom has 40 thousandths, and then cylinder 4, top has 45, and the bottom has 40. So this thing should wear in nicely, and after it's broken, we could probably turn it up and make 450, and we'll have the clearance for it. So they recommend 1 thou per horsepower, 10 thou per 100 horsepower. So that's good. That'll work, and we're aware that it may slap a little, and we'll check it when we put it together. But we are going to need bigger bearings for the rods and the crank. we have to get the head apart still and get the valves cleaned and put the new valve stem seals on and put it all back together. So so I'm gonna clean up this the bottom end stuff until we get bearings, and we're gonna start taking this head apart and getting it all cleaned. Now this here is the kit that I'm going to be using. You can buy this on eBay. It doesn't have a name brand or anything, but it works really well for what it needs to do. These will go up here on top of the valve, and it'll screw down, compress. You grab the valve keepers, you let it out, pull the valve spring and shit apart, and then place the seals and put it all back together once the valves are clean. So I'm going to take them all out. I'm gonna probably tie them up with some wire so I know which one they are, and I have some parts cleaner, and I'm just gonna soak them in the parts cleaner and let them get all the carbon off of it. That's basically how it's done. That's how it comes out. Do that for the rest of them. These valves look really clean, to be honest. Like, there is some carbon obviously, but like it's very minor stuff. And the seats, at least the seat face on the valve looks good. And then I don't know if you guys can see the seat there, but it's shiny. It looks really nice. I think we could probably just put this on the car and go, but I'm gonna pull it apart. We're gonna replace the valve stem seals and we're gonna run it. And then when we do the cam, we'll pull it out again, replace the valve springs with heavier duty ones, and be able to rev to 8.5, 9,000 and make 400 plus horsepower. So we're gonna get this apart. I'm gonna knock these out quick, get them all tied up and labeled or whatever, so they're stick with the cylinder and the valve that they're, cylinder and the port that they're with. So I'm gonna get these done real quick, and then we'll catch back up, knock them out. All right, we got all the exhaust valve springs, valves, retainers out. I took off the valve stem seals and pulled the bottom seats up, the retainer seat, and they're all in here. We're gonna put them in this parts cleaner and let them sit for a day or so, and come back to see how quickly they clean up and go from there. I'm pretty sure they're probably the carbon's just gonna melt away. So I have a second can, which I'm gonna do the same thing with the intake valves, I think, because only the face of the intake valve is really, like, it's not even that bad. I may be able to just brush it with some cleaner, because the intake port on the back side of the valve is really clean, because I capped my PCV, so I didn't have any of that engine oil recirculation type stuff. So that intake side, it was being sprayed by the injector the whole time, so it's pretty clean. But yeah, we'll catch back up whenever those are somewhat clean in the day or so. I'm gonna finish taking this intake side off and then get them clean. Real quick, you know you did a good valve job whenever you take it apart and the seats are still shiny. Like, the intake ports are clean as shit, and those seats are just so nice. I am thinking about sending the head out to get hot tanked, just because I want to get it clean, and the hot tank will take off all of this residue from the head gasket, and I don't want to brush it or hurt it or scrape it or anything like that. So I'm probably going to send that out this week or next week, because it's Christmas in a couple days, and get it cleaned. I really would like to get this thing together soon, but we have to wait for bearings, so that'll be next week. So yeah, but that's just clean. All right, I can't remember where we left off last, but I sent the crank out and got it polished. The machinist told me he wasn't able to get the 1,000th we needed off, but he got half of that. So we're gonna take some measurements. Hopefully we have enough clearance there. As long as we have 0.0015 to 0.002 on the rod clearance, rod journals, we should be good. And then he was able to polish the mains too, so we're gonna have extra clearance there. Real quick, I want to get this thing assembled. I'm tired of wasting so much fucking time. So I'm going to get this thing measured up. We're going to see what it is at. And we also got the undersized bearings, the extra clearance. It has 1 thou extra clearance. So we should be good there. I'm hoping that we measure and this thing measures out in spec that we're happy with. We have an ACL oil pump. We're going to be running decent oil in this thing, and we're not going to be revving it stupid high off the gate. So, yeah, I'm going to get this thing measured up, and we will check back and hopefully put this thing together today. Well, this is unexpected. With the 1,000th under and then the polishing, we've got 0025 on all the journals for rod A, and yeah, 003 on all the rod journals for B, same thing for C, and then 0025 for D. I think that's too loose. The only thing I can do is put the bearings back in and check them again with the stock bearings and see what the clearance is. I don't want to mix bearings, although they say you can. You just gotta have all the bearings of the same diameter on the same half of the rod. Oh, when you're doing the mains with the rods, I guess it wouldn't really matter, but I don't know. I guess we could do that, but I think that's too loose. I'm gonna do that real quick and put the stock bearings back in and check that. Hopefully that checks out fine, and then we bought bearings for no reason, I assume. So maybe we just needed the polish. I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this is what we have with the stock bearings. We have 1,000th clearance on all the rods, journals, except for the D rod. It's just the 4th rod or whatever. It's 10,000s on everything. So with the undersized bearing, it's only supposed to be 1,000th more. We have 3,000th clearance on all the journals, which is this could be my mistake, but these all come out to 0.003 clearance on all of the journals, which I think is too much. But we may be able to compensate with some oil weight. The rod journals, the main journals came out to 15, 15, 25, 20, 20. So the rod journals are good. We should be able to get away with that oil in that too. So it's ready to be assembled, but I'm out of propane. So I gotta wait till Monday to get propane and come back in here and slap this bitch together, because we really don't have too much time. I got some stuff I gotta work on next month, which won't have much uploaded then, so. But it sucks. I wanted to have this up on Sunday. Looks like that's not happening. It's whatever. We're getting it together either way. But it is what it is, and we'll catch back up in the next clip. All right, so I was talking to 4th Piston Matt about my bearing clearance issues, and he said I could possibly run 1/2 of the larger bearing and 1/2 of the standard size bearing and try and see what the clearance would be then. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put 1/2 of the bearing in the rod, and then the undersized bearing and a standard size bearing, and see if we can get a better bearing clearance. Because if we can get it down to like 0.002 instead of 0.003, that would be the greatest. Because 0.003 is pretty large. That's what he said, anyways. So we're gonna do that real quick and see what happens. Okay, so we got better clearances this time. Now it's not the 0.2 that I wanted, but I think it'll work, and we can make this work. So this is what we have with the mixed bearings. We have the standard size bearing on the bottom and the thou under bearing on top, which will give us a 1/2 thou more clearance now because they're mixed. So rod A, journal 1, we have 18. Rod A, journal 2, we have 16. 3 and 4, we all have 16. And then B, we have rod B, journal 1, 17, 2, 17, 3, 16, 4, 16. C, we have 18, 17, 18, 16. And then D, we have 16, 16, 16, 17. So what we're going to do here is D rod will be journal 4, which would be this one, the one closest to the crank, at 17 thou. C rod will be journal 3 at 18. B rod will be journal 2 at 17, and A rod will be journal 1 at 18. This gives us 17 to 18 thousandths clearance, which honestly I think will be good. We'll run 10W40. We'll be able to spin it. It'll be able to handle the power, and it's not the it's not the thousandth that we had in the beginning. So this is good. I'm happy with this clearance. We can put this thing together now, dude. I'm excited. Let's get this thing cleaned up. Let's get it brake cleaned. We're gonna clean all the bearings off. I got some assembly lube, and we're just gonna get this thing together today. So let's go. Now I know you just saw me put the bearings in here, but I had to take them out because we still have to hone it yet, and I don't want the bearings in there getting any type of debris or dust, or not dust, but gunk and shit on there. So I took them out real quick. I'm gonna give the cylinders a hone real quick, and then we can put the bearings in and get this thing together. I don't know if you can see it, but there was, it did sit for a little bit, so there was a light oxidation coat on the cylinder walls. But I was able to rub most of it off with some WD-40 and a towel. So once we get the hone in there, it should be able to take it the rest of the way off. I'm going to clean the hone multiple times before I go to each cylinder. That way we're not dragging rust and shit like that through it. And yeah, cleaning it all up. Alright, I just put a nice film of oil in the cylinders. I got my hone soaking. Just get it on the drill. And when you hone, you're trying to give a nice, even, like smooth RPM. You don't want to go really fast. You're just going to create circle lines. You need a 45-degree crosshatch. So a nice RPM down, up, just so you can see that crosshatch. And you'll know when it's done. You'll be able to see it. It'll look done for sure. All right. Now you'll probably be able to see it's that nice 45-degree angle crosshatch. Let me get a light for you guys real quick. Just gonna light this cylinder off real quick. Just the top so far. I'm gonna brake clean it, but got my phone real quick. You can see that 45-degree angle crosshatch. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is a more coarse of a honing tool. It's a stone type. It's not like the ball type, but you can see the nice crosshatch, and it's 45 degrees. It looks good. All we need is a crosshatch on here. We don't need to like hone the cylinder out crazy and bore it out crazy, but it looks good. Yeah, I might go over this cylinder one more time, and then I'm gonna finish these up, and then we can finish on with the build. looks good. Get my light real quick. Sorry for my sniffles, it's cold in here, but as you can see, if you can see, the cross hatch that's in there. Looks good on each cylinder. Nice cross hatch. Should be good to go. I'm gonna wipe them all down, get any of that dirt and shit that's in there out of there. And then I'm gonna coat them with oil, put the bearings back in, and we should be good to assemble the rods onto the pistons, get the rings on. Assembly lube, Ultra Slick Permatex. I use this for everything. Anytime I build something, this is what I use. Alright, it's torqued. See how well it spins. Like heck, love. Like heck, love. Nice. Good. Very nice, yes. Okay, now we can assemble the rods onto the pistons, and we can put the rings on, and we can slide them bitches down inside the cylinder. Alright, we got all the rods set up. Like we said earlier, rod A with its journal clearance is going to be cylinder 1. Journal 1. And then B is going to be cylinder 2, journal 2. C is going to be journal 3, cylinder 3, and D is going to be journal 4, cylinder 4. The pistons actually don't matter because they all came out to be the same size. Only the bores changed just a tiny bit, so we should be good there. We have the rings here. Cylinder 2 should be on B. Cylinder 1 is A. Cylinder 3 is C. Cylinder 4 is D. So we got the rings all set up. I gotta find my snap ring pliers, and then we can put the rings on. Alright, and with these Vitara pistons, usually on Honda motors, you would have the arrow facing the timing, but as you can see, they are smaller valve reliefs. These reliefs are smaller in diameter than these, because this is actually the intake side. They are bigger, the reliefs are bigger themselves. So with Vitaras, the arrow actually goes away from the timing. It points towards the transmission. So that's how these go. And for the rods, the tangs go towards the front of the motor. So on these rods, the Skunk 2 symbol will go towards the timing. So like this, and then the rod will be like that, with the arrow facing towards the transmission. So. One down. All right. Knocked all those out. I believe the C-clip should be at the opening. I'm gonna position them all that way. So they feel good, they feel nice. They went on relatively easy. Got all those on, and now we're gonna put the piston rings on. All right, now when putting on the rings, a lot of people like to set part of the ring in and twist it around. I'm not a fan of that because I feel that puts stress on the ring to bend it, and I don't want to do that. So this is what we do. Put the ring inside the ring expander like that, and all you have to do is open it up just enough for it to go on. I'm gonna put on the second ring first. The top of the second ring, I remember these says top because I remember taking them out, but the top ring has a little dot on it. I know it's hard to see, you probably won't be able to see it, but that is the top of the ring. Put that in there. Get it just big enough to go over it. Put it on there like that. Boom, second ring on. We'll position these when we're about to put it in the motor, but same thing with the top ring. It doesn't say top or bottom, so but you put it in like so. Stretch it just big enough to get over. Get in the groove. Let it go. Boom. Piston rings are installed. Well, at least the top two are. Knock these out real quick and we'll catch back up and put the O-rings on. Alright, the O-ring. You want these, I believe you want these, the end piece, how it's like one piece together facing upward. I believe that's how it should go. And it just goes into, you can, this one is a little bit more malleable since it's smaller. I mean like less material, you can kind of bend it around it without stressing it too much. So go ahead and slide that thing in there, slide that on there, and then there's 8 of these rings. One goes on top of it and one goes on the bottom of it, and then you're golden. Alright, piston ring orientation. Now there's a lot of mixed things out there to say what to do basically. The only thing that I know for sure that's 100% certain is that you don't want the ring gaps on any of the thrust surfaces, which is directly in front or directly behind the center line of the piston. So not between the intake valves and not between the exhaust valves. You can basically have it anywhere else. The effective idea of it is to get any of the gases that go down, get them out of the crankcase as quickly as possible, but also sealing in power. So how I've done it every time I put a motor together is I have the top ring at one intake valve, and then I have the second ring at the other intake valve, basically 90 degrees away from each other like that, if you can see it. One here and one here, and that works basically fine for me. So as well as the oil ring gap, you want them, how they say is where the center's right there where the end of the oil control ring is. There, and then the top ring you'll have like over here, and the bottom ring you'll have on this side of it. So you just don't want any of the rings on the thrust surfaces because that can cause them to fail, break, or have more or less control over the oil and blow by that goes into the crankcase. So I'm gonna have the top one intake, one on the one valve, one on the other intake valve, and then over here on the corner I will have the oil control rings, just how I had them set up: top, middle control ring, and then the bottom to the left. From there we oil up the piston, put it in the piston ring compressor, get it down into the cylinder, tap it down in, and then we're good to bolt it to the crank. I'm also going to lube the bearing before I do that, so let's get cracking. So as you can see here, top oil control the oil control ring, and then the bottom oil control right there. And that should be good. Throw some oil on the piston and the rings. Make sure it's nice and lubed up. Might have to reset the rings, especially the top two, because they're a little more loose. But you oil up the piston because you don't want it to scratch the cylinder. You want it to slide real easy on first startup, because oil does get up here. So oil that up. I always want to make sure you leave a little bit of skirt out, because that's what will help slide down into the cylinder. Take your mallet, make sure everything is down and flat. Everything looks good. Oops. Boom. That piston is in there. And I realized I put it in the wrong hole. It's supposed to go here. I'm an idiot. Alright, again, I'll show you one more time because I put it in the wrong hole. But now we're in the correct hole. Just give it a little bit more on there. Make sure it's in there. Again, take your mallet. Everything's flat, and then piston is in now. Now before I go any further, I just want to make sure that there's clearance on the cylinder walls, because these are long rods, but I don't know if they're advertised as no notch. So far with the crank, you don't have to notch anything, or on the girdle. Alright, I'm going to torque these real quick and get the other two in. this is odd and I made a mistake, but it shouldn't hurt anything. It should work fine. So basically what it was, the big end of this rod for some reason would not go down inside the cylinder like it normally would with the other ones. Don't know why, but I put the piston in like this, and this end would not fit down in the cylinder, and my dumbass thought if I just tapped it down in, it would work. Nope. It kind of marked up the cylinder just a little bit, but nothing that I think will cause any type of issue. I can't feel that with my thumb, so that just kind of took a small bit of the cross hatch, I guess, off of that cylinder. But what I had to do was take a sanding disc, and I had to, if you can see it, I had to sand down the edge of this just a little bit, just a tiny bit, so that this would fit down in the cylinder, and now it fits down in no problem. So it sucks that I had to do that, but it's so weird that every one of them fit except this one. So yeah, I'm gonna continue, put this last one in, put the bearing back in, lube it up, and get this thing finished assembled. Sweet. Let's see how it rotates. Now there's just lube on here, so I'm not going to do this a lot, but, or on the journals and stuff, but. Seems good. I am gonna lube up the cylinder walls a little bit more, just so they have some coating on them. And then from there, we should be good to, we gotta put on all the gaskets and stuff and get the head together. Honestly, guys, that's probably where we're gonna stop for today. I have a lot of stuff to edit. It's been 2 weeks. I want to get you guys a video, so I'm gonna get this up, and then next video will be buttoning up the block, which will be, we got to put on the oil pump still. We have to get the oil drain ironed out for the oil pan for the turbo. We have to get the rear main seal on, get the oil pan on, and get the whole short block dressed. But this one I'm gonna leave off for now, guys. I'm sorry it took so long. And also, Happy New Year. Today is New Year's Day, so Happy New Year's to you guys. Yeah, sorry, this has just been a headache trying to get measurements and then getting tools that worked, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we got everything ironed out. I'm glad we are here at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna get this up for you guys. I hope you guys love watching it. You know, thank you for being here. Thank you for the subs and the likes. Yeah, man. Next video, we'll be ironing out the short block, getting the head together, because we still have to do that. We got the valves out. They're getting cleaned right now. We have to put that thing together. So short block is kind of together. We'll get it together fully in the next video. So that's all for this one, guys. Deuces.